Right now we have Bob Chapman, the international forecaster, preeminent economist and frequent guest, as you know. Bob, are you there?
I certainly am, and it's very nice to be on with you again.
Yeah, it's nice to speak with you. So what would you like to get into first? We've got the continuing eroding economy. We have all the TSA news, creeping tyranny. What's most important on your...
I think Texas has learned a very good lesson from our federal government. That federal government has become dictatorial, and if you try to cancel what they'd like to do, then you're threatened. And I'm unhappy to say that the threat worked with the legislators in Texas. I thought it was hollow. I didn't think they'd do it. I think it was a bluff. And we'll never know, I guess. But if I was Texas, I'd turn around and go back and change it.
Absolutely. How could it not be a bluff? They're going to shut down 4 or 5 major cities as well as other smaller airports and have no flight when it's a major part of the economy, which is already, on the downward path.
And you've got 2, I'll call them change centers, and Dallas and Houston, where many of the airlines change carriers or planes to go to Mexico, Central, and South America, as well as other parts of the United States. It's a strong focal point. And you've got the second largest population in the United States. So I don't think they would have done it. And perhaps some of these legislators were just looking for a way out. But that's up to the people in Texas to take care of. All those who voted against the people, we'll put it, they should be kicked out of office. And it's the same thing with the people who voted for the 4-year extension of the Patriot Act. They should be kicked out of office, too. I think the vote for, if I remember correctly, was 53. So the vote against must have been very large. And so, you go look them up, and if they belong to your district, make sure you get them canned next time. Because it was very important legislation.
Mm-hmm. Well, in Texas, we also have Governor Perry most likely about to announce a bid for president. Now he didn't have to sign what might have been a very controversial legislation for all the statist Republican supporters out there. But as far as the MO of the threat of shutting down air traffic, it's almost exactly like the threat of martial law we saw happening at the time of the bailouts. They said if you didn't pass this, the sky will fall, et cetera, et cetera.
And they fall for it. And it's a shame. We need more people with guts, and obviously Texas and the United States House and Senate as well are gutless.
Okay, we're headed into break, Bob. We'll be back on the other side to get more into this. We also have an exclusive Alex Jones video coming up. I'm Aaron Dykes, Infowars.com show. I'm Aaron Dykes. Sitting in on the line with me is Bob Chapman, our regular Friday guest. And we are discussing the terrible tyranny in the passing of the Patriot Act extensions, in the rejection of a bill to check the powers, the unconstitutional powers of the TSA. Bob Chapman, where do you see things going as the depression sets in, as the economy falls, and as these agencies ask for even more power?
And I think you can expect them to do just that. They will take the opportunity that is created by economic and financial repression to continue to suppress the American people. And to me, that's a given. I've seen too much of this in the past in many countries, and I've read about it as well. And that's where I think this is headed. I think people should be finally realizing that no matter what you think, nothing is getting done to reflect your thoughts, desires by the U.S. Senate and and the House of Representatives, and obviously that goes for other state positions as well. The recovery that we are supposed to be experiencing doesn't exist, and it's very, very disheartening for Americans to know that we've had QE1, stimulus 1, QE2, stimulus 2. And all we have done is held our nose above water. And let's stop for a minute and think, well, what would the numbers would have been like had there not been stimulus 1, QE1, instead of plus 2.5% growth in GDP, it probably would have been even. And now we get QE2 and stimulus 2, and it probably would have been minus 2, because I think by the end of the year you're going to find out that we're going to get a plus 2 to 2.5, which we predicted a year ago. And I think that should teach people something, that throwing money at the problem is not solving it. Sure, the first set bailed out Wall Street and banking. The second set of funds, that bailed out the U.S. government. The third set of funds, and I can promise you we're going to get it, because if we don't get it, the whole system will collapse. And if we do get it, it'll be called by another name. Maybe an extension of 2 or something like that. And we're not going to see any help from the legislature in Washington like we've seen in 1 and 2, the stimulus. The first one was $850 billion. The second was $862 billion. There won't be a third. Now, in order to cover 80% of the Treasury offerings over the next year or so, the Federal Reserve will have to buy $1.6 trillion worth of paper. And that's a ballpark figure. And going into the economy itself, which will need some sort of stimulus, they will have to provide probably another $800 or $900 billion, just like before, like the legislature did. And so these are the kind of numbers we're talking about. And the flip side to all of that is right now we are experiencing the inflation that's been created by stimulus 1 and QE1. Real inflation right now is approximately 10%. Last May I said that it would be 14% by the end of the year. And I stick with that. And I think that's conservative. QE2 is going to come through the pipeline with stimulus 2 over the next year, year and a half. That should take us to 25-30% based upon what we see now. And if they do a QE3, is that going to take us to 50%? I don't know, but it's not good. And so these are the sacrifices that are being made to keep a system afloat in which there's really no growth. And it's decimating the dollar. Now, mind you, all currencies are in dreadful shape. Just some are better than others. And the dollar, the world's reserve currency, has continued to go down in value against other currencies. And that will continue. There'll be exceptions, but it will continue. And at the same time, people should be reminded that over the past 11 years, on average, every year, 9 major currencies have fallen in value each year by over 20% against gold and silver. Now, that varies from currency to currency, of course. But the strong point is you don't want to be in currencies. Only what you have to use And if that's any criteria historically, then you want to be in gold and silver coins and bullion and shares. That seems to me the only safe place to be. And so that's where we're headed. And if there's no QE3 or something like it, get ready for a deflationary depression. And they don't want to face that. And so you're going to get QE3.
Well, absolutely. Societally, it's a total debasement. The currency, through the Federal Reserve mechanism, as you say, getting weaker and weaker. And then our so-called protectors in society, both the police, the TSA, whoever else, they get more debased and more gluttonous in their crimes as the society continues to fall. The service sector jobs go, or rather the manufacturing, almost completely gone already. Why are we shifting into a banana republic, and why does no one care? Why are ordinary people standing by? They should all be at the capitals demanding anti-TSA bills. There's no supremacy clause against the Bill of Rights. It's the Fourth Amendment.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct in citing the fact that Americans really haven't fought back. It's governmental policy. It started in 1967. It got warmed up in 1980 when major manufacturers started to move their production to foreign shores, whether it was China or India or Mexico or Argentina and Brazil, etc. And that's when that movement began. I wrote about it in 1967. Of course, as usual, nobody was listening. And so what we've got today is planned obsolescence of the entire American economy.
Mm-hmm.
And you say to yourself, why? Well, the people who are behind the scenes, who have bought 95% of our legislators in Washington, they want it that way. And the transnational corporations who are engaged in this for the most part, not only do they get to make more profits, but the profits are kept outside the United States and they're not taxed. So you say to yourself, gee, how can they have such a thing? And incidentally, it was about 4.5 years ago that these corporations promised Congress that they create many jobs if they let them bring money back into the country. And Congress says that's okay. They brought back $350 billion. But instead of paying 33% taxation, they were given a gift. They paid 5.25%, and they want to do it again. But this time, the number's $2 trillion. And they don't want to pay any taxes at all. And, I don't know what Washington's thinking about. Otherwise, the people who are there, who are getting paid off, they don't care one bit about the American people, and they're supposed to be representing them. So what have we lost? 11 years, 11 million jobs, 440,000 businesses. It's been not only debilitating, it's been terribly destructive. And so, someone jumps up and says, well, how do you change that? Well, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is have Congress implement tariffs on goods and services to create a level playing field. They'll even discuss such things. But they're very happy to allow the American economy fall off the abyss. And so that's what we're faced with as far as maintaining any kind of economic strength in the United States. And as long as that continues, there's never going to be any recovery. And the people behind the scenes, Wall Street, banking, transnational conglomerates, insurance companies, pharmaceuticals, they're all involved in it.
Well, it's a form of globalization, so they can be a ruling class against a mainly feudal set of people. We're going to be back right after the break, Bob, and then we also have an exclusive video of Alex coming up just about 10 or 15 minutes from now. Should be very interesting. InfoWars Chapman on the line, and we're discussing this gross overreach of power as well as the deindustrialization of our nation. Bob, how do they expand their mandate when we have a budget crisis and when there's more and more demand for weaker and weaker money?
Well, I think you can compare it favorably with the early 1930s. Where did Adolf Hitler get the money to continue with the brown shirts, which evolved into the SA and the SS? He founded or created it, and that's what they're doing in Washington. Money means nothing to them. It's just a means to an end. And if they have to create it, well, they'll do so. And that's what they're doing now, and we've discussed that with the usage of the privately owned Federal Reserve and what they're doing in relation with the problems at hand, which are the government is broke, a good part of business is broke, and we have these mountainous debts, personal business, and not only federal government, but municipal and states. We know the dreadful situation that they're in, and they're going to start coming home to roost very shortly. We were looking at 350,000 lost jobs in the municipal area last year, 450 this year. They're talking in terms of 550 the following year. And next year starts on July 1st. I should tell you that that's their fiscal year, and for the most part. And so if you want to see what's probably going to happen in America, take a look at the pictures that were taking the films in Barcelona over the last several days. The police not only beating people indiscriminately, but also firing on them. And it's only a matter of time. It'll evolve into America. And that'll happen as the financial and economic system worsens, and that it will. You can plan on it. And so I think that's the next step in America. You say, what are you going to do about it? When you go to Congress and there's no response.
I know, the whole system is just rotten. But as far as this globalization system, we know it's been planned for a long time. You said you started writing about it in 1967. I'm looking at a quote from 1969 right here from a Dr. Richard Day, who worked for Planned Parenthood. He was a Rockefeller trustee, and he wrote about how the stated plan would be that different parts of the world would be assigned different roles of industry and commerce in a unified global system, and that each part of the world would have a specialty. They'd be interdependent, but also weakened. And he also writes about how travel would be restricted. People would have to get permission to travel. And today we have this trusted traveler background ID system being introduced through the very crisis of outrage over TSA, Bob. Is it not a planned deindustrialization by design using globalization and this terrible TSA-based police state?
Yes, it is, and I didn't know this Dr. Day, but what he said at that time is true, and that's the way it's turned out. And I can't remember at the time whether there was any other research I was aware of. That was just my own feelings and my synopsis of that was the only way they could bring us down.
But hey, that was when the Packard plant started. Sorry, that was when the Packard plant started closing in Detroit, too. It was kind of the beginning of the end. I wasn't there, but that's the way I see it, kind of repiecing the history. But now we're just in the thick of it. It's just going to be a pure, disgusting rot as things wither away. And I don't know how this system can move into travel and buses and trains so seamlessly. Isn't anyone even paying attention to this stuff?
Well, they are, but they don't know what to do. There's no overt leadership. And usually people will react when they have an empty stomach. Mm-hmm. And how far away is that? Well, I see the states cutting back on their unemployment extensions. And I think the next step after that will be the continued foreclosures.
Okay, we'll be back. Chapman on the line. Bob, I know things are disintegrating. I know there's so much importance on the financial stuff. This week I see things on the TSA front, and I heard what Bob Barr said on the show yesterday, that if you don't stop this thing now, there's no reason to think you're ever going to be able to stop these abuses on the Fourth Amendment, the creeping police state. And that's why I was just very excited to see Alex and all these people at the Capitol this week demanding from their Congress that they do the right thing and just simply restrict the power of TSA. You know, Rand Paul was reprimanded for being the only one who wanted to place restrictions on the government in their ability to obtain gun purchase records through the Patriot Act authorizations. Bob, finishing up, because we're going to play a clip here, where do we see things going from here? I'm flabbergasted. I don't know what to say. I'm so angry about this stuff.
Well, I think the people of Texas should come down on those senators hard, and make them vote all over again. Put an end to this. And, the worst thing that can happen is Texans decide they want to leave the Union. And that's possible. And I've heard Alex talk about that before. And so that's an alternative. You're not going to get any hearing in Washington. Nobody cares. It's a criminal consortium that stretches from the Potomac to the East River. And it's not going to stop. Wall Street is entirely and thoroughly corrupt. And it's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. I mean, just look what's going on over in Europe right now vis-a-vis Greece and other countries. They're trying to steal everything they've got in the country that belongs to the people of the country. And they're brazen. And this standoff could go on for months. And I hope it does. And I hope they default. And eventually that's what's going to happen with all these countries that are deeply in debt. There's no way out for them. And I see some countries now are accumulating gold because they want to get rid of dollars. And it stretches from China, India, Russia, Thailand, Mexico even buys 100 tons of gold, $5 billion worth. So there are people out there who are trying to protect their countries, but we don't have anybody to help us. And I think that the catalyst will happen when there's enough people hungry. And that should spark it off. And you'll see the same thing going on that you had seen this past week in Spain, particularly in Barcelona. And I spent a lot of time there. And I know what the people are like. And they're not going to take it anymore.
But
that's really what it amounts to.
Maybe too late at that point. Bob Chapman, it's really great speaking to you again. Thanks for joining us. We're going to go now. We're going to let you go, Bob. Thank you.